Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. That's Psalm 51:10. It's heard in a song, you hear it in worship services. It's becoming one of my favorite songs because it really talks about the mourning that we go through when we sin against God and Him alone. And there's so much blindness to the reality of sin in the world, and especially within the church. But I take solace in Psalm 51, as well as many of the Psalms and many of the scriptures. There's peace found in God's word. But particularly when you get to Psalm 51:17, the sacrifice pleasing to God is a broken spirit. God, you will not despise a broken and humbled heart. It's hard to take joy in the world sometimes. We have moments, especially when we're in fellowship, when we get little glimpses of heaven, when we're just focused on those around us and doing things that glorify the Lord, not partaking in things of the world that destroy the flesh, destroy the mind, create stumbling blocks for others, that really pervert us into what the God of this world wants us to be. And when you see all the things going on, it's hard to not be broken. And I see people even in the church rebelling against that word. I'm not broken. Like, I don't need fixing, but that's pride. That's pride of the world. If you realize that we weren't made for this world, our kingdom is in heaven with Jesus, then the things of this world that are going on should break our spirit. And it's not that it breaks us, but it makes us contrite. It makes us have a reverence for the Lord and what ultimately we'll be a part of if we stay the course, if we don't let the trials and all of the perversions in the world turn us from the race, turn us around, which means to sin, if we turn away from God. You just look at some of the headlines, and I got to read these every day, and it's no wonder why it's hard to take joy the way the world defines joy. My joy is in the Lord, not the circumstances, because the circumstances make me want to cry half the time, and it's not, sometimes it's a selfish cry because I don't want to be going through the things I'm going through, but oftentimes it's about seeing all of the blindness, seeing all of the otherwise well-intended, good people blinded by the things of this world and thinking they're doing things in the name of the Lord, but the Bible prophesies that people will do things in the end times that are blasphemous, and they'll do it thinking they're serving the Lord. There's a zealousness to serve the self that's kind of infiltrated religion and the social construct that it's become, making people think they're serving God when they really are serving their own selfish ambitions, because there's been so much infiltration in the church. There's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing. But some of these headlines: Gavin Newsom compares Trump to Hitler, claims California takes crime very seriously. No, they don't. They're letting out criminals all the time and going after people, trying to stop people from having abortions. They're letting people get away with theft. If it's under $1,000, they're glorifying, they're normalizing crime. That's the biggest joke, and it's the biggest ounce of gaslighting from these. Biden administration officials urged international medical officials to remove age restriction for gender surgery. It's hard to take joy in this world knowing this stuff is going on, and there's otherwise good people affirming this stuff, thinking it's a good idea to allow children to change their God-given sex. It's atrocious. It's a tragedy. It should not be happening. And yet people are thinking that it's okay because authorities in this world have said so. They're not trusting God and His ultimate authority. Department of Interior publishes a guide to woke language, telling bureaucrats to avoid gender terms like husband, son, and daughter, and even tells them to use they and them pronouns. This is the world we're living in. You can't even call somebody husband, wife, daughter, son without being offensive. Is that really the world that you think God intended? That we can all just be these non-binary, like albino, whatever? And then Biden threatens to veto a defense bill because of DEI exclusions, diversity, equity, inclusion. Everything's all about diversity, equity, inclusion, unless you stand up for the things that the Lord tells us to stand up for. Then they want to ostracize you and cancel you and demonize you so that you're called a domestic terrorist or a zealous extremist. That doesn't add up. But because it's being said and said and said and said and said again and again and again and again, everywhere you look, people believe it. If you repeat a lie long enough, people will believe it. Track coach is speaking up after watching another male-born athlete dominate in a women's track meet. He faced up against men last year, came in 164th place. He shatters the state records now that he's competing as a woman. How are people not seeing how wrong this is? This is just in women's sports. But how do you not see that it's an unfair advantage? When people can't even see that, they're never going to see the danger in just changing your sex to begin with. And then, of course, we've got the story of the illegal immigrants coming across the border, raping a 12-year-old girl, then murdering her, leaving her under a bridge. It's just sad. How can you be so joyful of the things of this world, knowing all of these things are going on, and that's just a tiny little tidbit? But God rejoices in those who are brokenhearted, those who are broken and humbled in heart, because they're focused on His kingdom, and they know His kingdom is yet to come. This world is fallen because we were all born into sin. Earlier in Psalm 51, it says, I was sinful by nature, even in my mother's womb, but you still forgave me. You cleansed me. And He forgives us of everything. And this entire thing is pointing forward to Jesus. In the very first line, He says, wash away my guilt and cleanse me of my sin. And God will ultimately do that through Jesus Christ on the cross. All we have to do is accept and believe. And believe means to truly believe. If you see a bridge, you believe that it's there, but if you don't trust that it'll hold you up when you walk across the deep cavern, you might not cross it. But when you truly believe, you'll see it, you'll know that it's there up here, and then you'll go cross it and trust that it's going to hold you up through perilous times. That's what true belief and faith in Jesus Christ is all about. That's what a humbled and contrite and broken heart is all about. So create in me a new heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit in me. That's my battle cry each day, because you see all these headlines, you see all these things going on, you see how the world is falling apart, but people are blind to it. It makes you want to cry. You have to take joy in certain moments away with family and friends and fellowshipping, but when I'm alone, man, it's hard to really get excited about anything in this world. But that's okay. That's nothing to be ashamed of. That's a broken and contrite heart, understanding the state of the world that we're in. So, hope that resonates with somebody. That's what I felt in my heart to share today. Psalm 51. If you're ever down, go ahead and read Psalm 51. And I hope that blesses you. Have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow.